Hello and welcome everyone for today's important update on something that is shaking up the world and X, of course. And let me share my screen so you know what we are talking about. You probably already know it because of the thumbnail. And we have Optimus. Optimus is coming into the limelight again. And what we see here is now, what does it all mean? Is that important? Is this just a video that, and you see that, X is all over this. It's getting posted everywhere. They're comparing this with where Optimus was before, and all the things it does in the factory. They compare this with 2021, where there was a human in an Optimus costume, and there was nothing going on, and there was a very clunky Optimus coming out a few months later, and then today we are here, right? And that gives you a little bit of taste of where we are at. And of course, there are these funny little share price updates. And what does that all mean for us? Does it mean that Optimus is now coming into focus for the stock? And what does it have to do with the robotaxi update and the June launch that we are approaching very rapidly now? Well, that is what today's video is all about. We want to look into what we have to think about this. And we want to think a little bit more about the implications and the predictions for this crazy, crazy world we are living in. So what we see here is that, Tesla was pretty quiet since the We Robot event in November last year, or October, sorry, 10/10. And we haven't heard much. We had the election, we had a crazy stock run up. We had a lot of complaints that, Elon is focusing on saving the United States. And a lot of critics said, what is he doing? Why is he saving the world? That's so unnecessary. He should focus on Tesla. Of course, I disagreed with that. I think saving the world is kind of important. Without a world, without United States, there is no world. And without a world, there is no Tesla. So the opportunity that Elon seized to actually fix the fiscal health of the United States and cement his influence and his relationship with POTUS, with the president of the United States, I think that will pay off for Tesla very handsomely and already does. So it was good that he did that. But what I want to also emphasize here in this video is when we think about what Tesla is doing and how this huge, huge Optimus opportunity is being unlocked, we have to not just stare at Elon and think about, oh, is Elon hanging out with Trump? Or is he working on Doge? Or what is he doing? With the implication that Wall Street always has is if Elon is not all over this on Twitter and tweet on X and post all day long about Optimus, the perception of Wall Street is, oh, Optimus is not happening. That is fundamentally wrong. And we have to understand that Tesla is not a startup anymore. Tesla is a giant innovation machine. And that innovation machine has $5 billion in R&D that they spend every single year, $5 billion in cash that they spend on R&D, on AI, on robotaxi and autonomy, a little bit on cars, but a lot on Optimus. I'm estimating $2 billion into Optimus, including, if you include the AI efforts and the indirect efforts. Tesla is not just one little company. It's a conglomerate of companies at this point that all are built around AI and hardware and scaling and supply chains. Hey, creating these videos is a lot of work. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Now let's get back to the video. And when you think about this, why I'm so bullish on Optimus, think about this. If we estimate 2 billion in available R&D resources, how does it compare to the rest of the world in humanoid robots? The biggest one is Figure AI of the competitors. And Figure AI only raised 675 million. I mean, that's a lot of money, but they raised this in a Series B. They want to raise 1.5 billion. They have to raise this. They're not even there yet. While Tesla keeps spending 2 billion a year on this. And then the next ones, they're all like pretty small, 940 million raised across 4 rounds. So what can they spend per year? 250 million maybe, maybe 300 million. I mean, it's good money. But Tesla not only has this amazing cash pool they can spend on Optimus, they also have a massive workforce. They have by far the strongest employer brand for skilled engineers. They have unlimited capital market access. They're sitting on $30 billion in cash if they have to build it out. They sit on giant supply chains that they have built. So we have to understand Tesla is not just the number one in humanoid robotics. They are the number one by an enormous distance, just measuring the cash they're spending on it, not even anticipating their skill set and their existing IP and Elon Musk and their whole engineering team, the intangible assets. Just the tangible cash is crazy. So when we look at Elon, oh, you're distracted, you hang out with Trump, you're trying to save the world, or you're actually saving the world. Don't complain about this. Don't think nothing is happening at Tesla. And the next fact, the fact that we didn't hear from Tesla for such a long time, since October, which seems like an eternity, 6 months of no news from Optimus, that is actually bullish. And I will go into that in a second. The fact that Tesla doesn't talk about Optimus means they are onto something. It means that they are anticipating the real commercial launch of these robots very soon. It means they understand there's competition. It means they talked too much in the past, so there was too much copying going on. And it means this becomes real now, very, very real. So before I go into some more details and share with you guys why I think we are in the most decisive historic moment in human history, and that Optimus plays a major role, not the central role. The central role, of course, AI and AGI and ASI plays, but very adjacent to the core of that revolution. I want to go into the opportunity just to remind everyone why this is so important for the stock. The TAM. What is the total addressable market? You guys reminded me I should not just use these abbreviations, but explain what it means. Total addressable market. So what is the market opportunity for humanoid robots and for Optimus? Look, if you have any sense of what these robots are, you would see this thing dancing, right? Should I show you again? You have seen it. So it can dance. It will be like a human, only way, way smarter, and at some point way stronger and better in any sense, in any economic sense. You can be guaranteed that the TAM is vastly larger than 10 billion of these things roaming around Earth. Elon always says the ratio of humans to robots will be not 1-to-1. It will be 1-to-many. Each human will have multiple robots, I think unlimited at some point. When you think about space, when you think about all kinds of things, this will be, everything is a function of economics. Imagine you can order humans, as many humans as human laborers as you want for any kind of industry who do everything way better than any human, but they only cost X% of a human, which is the decisive question, right? And I'm assuming we get to $12,000 a year costs. That would be complete disruption. That would be 20% or less of human wages in the West. So that would lead to an explosion in the labor demand, right? Everyone would say, well, I have 10 workers right now, but I want to have 100 if I can get it for the price of 20, because I can expand like crazy. All these advanced industries in Germany and Sweden and South Korea and Japan, all of these very developed countries have a lot of IP. They have a lot of innovation power, but they are labor constrained. They can't expand because it's too expensive. Imagine you lower their labor cost by 80%. How many laborers are they going to hire? A lot. And that's the Optimus opportunity. So we're talking about 10 billion or more Optimus. And what that means, if you make $12,000, it means $120 trillion in revenue. Now, I'm not saying that Tesla grabs the entire market, but there's reasons to believe that they will grab most of the market. So the opportunity is 120 trillion just out of the gate. I mean, that's nuts. That's a lot of money. 120 trillion. But even better, that's at a 90% margin, because this is the RaaS, the robot as a service fee per year. That's not the hardware. The hardware, comes on top of that with some margin. This is what you just pay for having these things roam around. Maybe it's 80% margin. I don't know. We can play around with it. There will be some maintenance, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a high margin for software. Now, so you see, this is ridiculous. Where's the stock? The stock, if you make 100 trillion in margin, you're at a few pentillion or quadrillion, quadrillion. You're at some high number. Believe me, it's pretty high. It doesn't matter. It's we will go to this in a second, what that means for the world, the whole thing. It means we are moving beyond what we even perceive as economic reality, way beyond, and it's coming soon. It's within 10 years. This whole thing will be unlocked at mass scale. And within 5 years, it's going to be unlocked clearly. So what about the competition? Well, I went through this in a lot of other videos, so I'm not going too deep into it, but Tesla is completely unbeatable right now if they continue on the path they are at. They have supply chains no one can compete with, not even remotely compete with. They have the ecosystems. They have geopolitical control. United States, Saudi Arabia, China, whatever. They can make things happen. That's why Elon's involvement in politics is so decisive for the future of the company, because you're not talking about a company anymore. You're talking about a geopolitical and geostrategic mega force that you're building. So this will happen much more on a country level than just on a company level. And of course, they have the ability, because of Elon, hopefully we will soon have many more Elons. We are working on it. Pioneer Academy, I will talk about this a little bit more. But Elon's magic trick, I will talk about Elon's magic trick further down this presentation. You will see what the magic trick is that all of us can learn in the future, the magic trick that unlocks everything. But right now, the other companies are too dumb. They don't get it done. Magic trick is not that hard, but Elon has the magic trick. That magic trick is to do the obvious. And you need to keep doing the obvious a lot, because Optimus is not just one robot. It's a whole innovation platform you need to develop. It's like, oh, how does all this IP and this training come into the robots for these specific industrial tasks? How do you build a giant global app store where you can download all these modules that the robots have to do? It's about IP protection, and it's about all kinds of things, industrial IP protection. So all these things need to be invented, and you need a machine that can invent foundationally disruptive business models on a conveyor belt. Hey, if you want to stay ahead of capital markets and the next Tesla moves, join us in Pioneerlands. Here we track Tesla, capital opportunities, AGI disruption, and politics. It's your critical information advantage in the age of AGI. It's free, and the link is in the description. Let's get back to the video. And Elon is very good at that. You need someone who always thinks in first principles at every step of the way. This is not just about a little robot with some hands. This is about an entire complicated new labor economy you have to invent, you have to implement, you have to make happen. So my share price target, because of all of that, I'm not going to go into my model. You can see this in other videos. 11,000. We are currently at 340 roughly. 11,000 by 2030. That's pretty conservative. That's assuming we reach 2 billion humanoid robots by 2040, which I think is a likely outcome. I think it's a little harder than people think. So I think 2 billion, it's not going to be 10 billion. I think 2 billion is realistic. They need to execute on a high level, but I think it's most likely they will. So we are getting to 11,000 share price by 2030. A huge part of that is Optimus. And Robotaxi is basically the economic or cash flow bootloader for Optimus, because Optimus will need a lot of capital, mostly because of AI. So Elon is already talking about a terawatt of energy. He's talking about some other things. You need to invest massively in energy infrastructure, and you need to invest massively. I'm talking trillions and trillions that go to NVIDIA, go to some internal chips maybe, but more likely to NVIDIA. That's why NVIDIA is also a nice stock to have. Trillions to NVIDIA and many trillions into energy. And Robotaxi is the $1 trillion margin thing that will start to generate. I think in my model, they will generate $1 trillion in profit from Robotaxi by 2032. So we'll have hundreds of billions coming in cash that will be invested into the AI stack and the energy stack needed for the robots and for all kinds of crazy things. So that's the bootloader, the cash bootloader for the big thing, which is Optimus. So the first few trillions and Robotaxi profits go into that, and then you get really into the hundreds of trillions in profit that the robots will make Tesla in the 2040s, right? You need to all model it out. So of course, it's not happening immediately. And of course, the decisive question for us is, I know you're all interested in Tesla shares and what's going to happen. What about the timing? And what we learned from that video, from that crazy dance video, is that the timing of Optimus, we need to get ready. I projected that end of this year, we will see some major surprises. No, this video doesn't change my timeline too much, but it just confirms it. It confirms I was probably right. And we will see end of the year some crazy stuff. You have to be absolutely ready that we see that earlier and that some videos leak and that we see some announcements. Elon is always surprisingly conservative on the Optimus timeline. I'm less conservative than Elon. I find it very encouraging that Elon is conservative because normally with every visionary pioneer, I think everyone, even I do this sometimes, not that I'm as great as Elon, but I'm just saying if you have this mindset of anticipating the future, the less you're ready for the future, the more you are like saying crazy stuff and over promising. And the more you have the future under control, the more conservative you become. It's like, well, not November, it's going to be a little longer, because you see all the details that have to come together. So it's a good sign that Elon becomes more conservative. It means they have it under control more and more. So very important, because we didn't hear much about the robots for quite a long time now, 6 months. I think that's an extremely bullish sign. It means they are cooking something, and we saw a first video now. We have to be ready any moment over the next 6-7 months that something is going to happen while we are riding the wave of robotaxi up. Let's hope this goes smoothly. It's one of the most important reasons why I'm so bullish on the stock, because this gives us a second layer of certainty that the stock is very strong right now for the next 12 months. Because even if robotaxi has some issues, Optimus is coming. I think the most likely thing is robotaxi will launch smoothly, maybe scale a little slower than we hope, but this year it will come to real scale with thousands of robotaxis, is my conviction. And then at some point you just have Optimus coming out of a left field, and boom, the game is over. So let's get to the real reason why I'm so bullish, why I was so bullish even last year on Optimus. I was more cautious on FSD, but I'm coming around. Why am I so bullish? And a lot of people, a lot of Tesla tubers who I all love, from Fazat to Randy Kirk to Peggy, of course, Stephen Mark Ryan, everyone is like, there's a lot of accusations going on that everyone is an Elon fanboy or Tesla fanboy. And that's true for some, but when it comes to me, I actually have I think, realistic take on what Elon actually does and what he is. And I think Elon is not an inventor genius like, Tesla was, Nikola Tesla. And he's not Einstein. Like, he's not someone who invents some crazy stuff no one could imagine. Elon is pretty, he has a very basic, very well-adjusted brain that hacks one specific thing. And that one specific thing that he hacks is not that he has an extreme genius mathematically or anything like that, but that he sees the obvious. He can see the obvious, what should be obvious. To an alien, for example. Alien comes to Earth. Will everything be a humanoid? Of course. It's not hard to figure out. But if you are an expert, a so-called expert who's sitting at Boston Dynamics or something, or if you're a Wall Street expert, if any of these experts, the biggest human problem is that these experts can't see the forest between the trees. We even have that expression. And Elon has one specific skill that makes him so powerful. He's someone who can walk into the forest and see the trees and still see the forest. And that's an incredibly rare skill. That's all you need to do. You need to be in the forest, touch the trees, chop down some trees and build some houses, but still see the forest. It's like, I'm actually in a forest. Whereas all the analysts say, what are you talking about? There's no forest. It's like, bro, you're in the middle of the forest. No, there's no forest. Like, that's the problem of most people. And because he can see the obvious, he can just make the obvious moves. So that is his big strength. And why am I so bullish on this? Because, independently of his big strength, the world is going through the biggest revolution in human history, the AGI revolution, the AI revolution. And that revolution was unlocked by very smart scientists and some, people, some tinkerers who are good at math, not Elon, right? People who invented all this crazy stuff. Even Google had an important role, even though I'm very skeptical of Google as a company, but they drove it, academics drove it. We had these unlocks. And now we are pouring all this money and research into AI, and now we have reached escape velocity. You know that I believe we are already post Singularity. I think beginning of 2025 was the Singularity. There's a video on that. I think we have crossed the line, which has many problems, but this is happening. And we are all sitting on this insane exponential AGI acceleration trajectory. And so all someone like Elon has to do is sit there and see the forest between the trees. And you reap in so much money, so much opportunity that you can't even believe it. There is no limit to where this all goes. And I'm talking also about there is no financial limit, how much money we can make with a stock. There are other stocks like NVIDIA who are also going to benefit dramatically from that, and some others. But I think Tesla is at the eye of the storm. So the real reason I'm so bullish is that Elon doesn't even have to do much, and the Tesla team. I don't want to discount what they're doing. Of course, there's a lot of work, and they need to be smart. Or I wouldn't say they need to be smart. They need to be not dumb. I will get to this in a second. Because they're sitting on the biggest disruptive wave in human history. And that also means for all of us, for each of you and me, for any country, for any company, you just have to crack the secret I'm going to talk about in a second, because the giant transformative wave is actually here. So, and I want to talk about some bigger picture things to wrap up the video. Now you know my take on Optimus. I think it's coming, it's here, but it's all sitting on this giant wave. And I want to talk about the secret to making history for you and me, and the secret to making history for any company, and the secret to making history for any country. Wait for it. Here's the secret. I scroll down, I show you the secret. The secret is don't be dumb. Because we are sitting on this giant wave. If you are not dumb, see, I'm not saying you have to be smart. You don't need to be smart. Just don't be dumb. Don't be dumb. Take a step back. See the world as it actually is. Understand reality. Get rid of all your biases and all the stupid BS. And see the obvious. And don't be dumb. And then take non-dumb steps. That is what will divide the winners and the losers. And the losers will have a very bad time. They will perish in terrible ways, which I don't wish to anyone, but that's going to happen because there are many problems with AGI. But if you are not dumb, you will be the greatest pioneers that ever lived, because it's kind of easy at this point. And what that means is any company can become the number one now easily. All it needs to do is the management understand reality, engineer it for maximum future value. Right, Tesla did. They did cars, and there's like, wait a moment, why do we do cars? There will be robots. We could own the robots, and they will replace human labor, and it's the greatest opportunity of all time. Why don't we do that? Boom. Not hard to understand. But you also have to not look back and not get bogged down. It's like if you have a company that produces, I don't know, like coffee cups, and then someone finds in your little store a giant oil field, right, that's worth $10 trillion. Most coffee cup companies will say, I don't know, we're not going to do anything because we produce coffee cups. But a smart coffee cup company is going to say, why do we sell coffee cups and make $10,000 a month if we could make 10 trillion by just becoming an oil company? So the smart companies will understand it doesn't matter what we do right now. What matters is what is the insane opportunity of AI, of white collar replacement AI, of robotic AI, of all kinds of things, of media. There are all kinds of opportunities. Every company has a tremendous advantage right now. They have people, they have organizations, they have money, they can do anything, but they need to be smart. Any country on earth can become the number two. You can't become the number one because Trump is president of the United States. So the United States is going to be number one, but you could be number two. And maybe who knows what happens with the United States. I think they're on a very good track, but you could be number two. And what I'm saying with this is it doesn't even matter who you are. You can be a random country like Saudi Arabia. We just, I have some videos coming out like today and tomorrow, this week, on what happened in Saudi Arabia right now with Trump and Elon and David Sachs and everyone. Crazy things. And here's another country I always love to mention, Iceland, because Iceland is so tiny and cute. It's 340,000 people. It's on this little rock in the North Sea. It's an amazing country, by the way. But it's a little tiny. A tiny, like, a tiny country like Iceland could become number 2 in the world, because now the other countries are falling behind and you have AI. You could do magic things. You could become the most dominant force in the world if you just make your population align to a vision of AI and say, wait a moment, this is clear. Everything in the world will collapse down now to reality engineering. All we need to do is like anticipate reality, anticipate what we want, and train our people to become pioneers, and then walk around compute chips, and algorithms, and use AI to transform the world. No country is doing that even to 0.001% of their capacity right now. Whichever country becomes a reality engineering country first, a pioneer land, will dominate after the United States. But my favorite is to open people's eyes also not just on countries, but on states. I mean, Germany, one of my favorite topics, like look at Saxony, the biggest state in East Germany, where you have some of the smartest Germans who actually get what's going on. If you think your country sucks because it's hijacked by crazy people or by suicidal death cults or something, you still have a state, right? And you could become very strong. You could say, you know what, screw you, federal government. Like, if you're smart enough in our smaller state, I don't know how many people live in Saxony, probably 4, 5, 6 million or something. It's like a country, or Thuringia, whatever, like some smart state. I'm just taking Germany as an example. You can become more independent. Say, you know what, screw you people. Screw you people. We don't need crazy people dictating to us anymore. We can form a state that becomes the pioneer land. And the same is true, by the way, if you want to be number 2, you can be a US state and become number 2. And I'm just throwing in randomly Idaho here. It could be Florida. I don't know. Like, any US state could decide, you know what, we want to be the number 2 in the world after the United States, just as a state, by taking the right steps to preparing our population more than anyone else to become pioneers and reality engineers and dump all the other stuff. You don't need all these stupid things anymore. You need to focus. You need to be focused on the future. Every human has to become a reality engineer and a pioneer. Drop all the stupid professions. Say, here's AI. Hello. We need to take it up a notch. We need to train our people to work together to envision new realities and shape and merge and engineer them as quickly as possible. No one else is doing it. If we seize control over it, we become the first pioneer land, and boom, you make trillions, quadrillions of profit. You will have the biggest economy in the world after the United States. And, it's just a question of who does it first, and then boom, it's going to be a ripple effect, and we need to be, for other reasons, fast with this. And then finally, any one of us can become rich. So I'm telling you all these things because it's the magic trick of Elon. Elon is not just a genius like all these people in the past, like Galileo or something. He's not that. He just sees the obvious and takes action. And you can do the same, and I can do the same. Like, people have a job, right? People have jobs and they work their little jobs, but then they have 300 Tesla shares or something, 500 Tesla shares, and you have to do the math. Like, dude, we're in this transformative time. Getting the investment strategy right and making the right decisions will always make you more money once you have more than 200 shares or something than any job will ever be able to do. So understanding reality and making the right moves and connecting to the right people and joining Pioneerlands, pioneerlands.net, is very important, because once we understand we live in this new reality, since beginning of 2025, Singularity has happened. There is no limit to the upside, but we need to play it right. We need to participate in this. And we cannot just get bogged down by some stupid old stuff. And finally, here's the final thing. I get actually a lot of inquiries on X and now also on YouTube of parents. And I have actually a little brother. I have multiple little brothers, but he's 19, and I had some conversations with him. And it always stuns me, like, everyone's so clueless, especially, parents don't know what to do with their children and their education, especially you guys who are on the channel. You understand there's some insane disruption coming. What do you do with your kids? Or if you are in your teens, what is your plan? Do you go to college? Like, what's the plan? That makes like literally no sense. Like, oh, you learn to code when Microsoft actually says there will be no coders anymore, and Eric Schmidt, end of this year. Really? Is it smart to learn coding? So, it is very clear that we need a new education that actually prepares kids for this new world, that makes everyone a pioneer and a reality engineer and trains them in envisioning the future joining forces, making the right decisions, and just create realities. And that is a totally new thing. That's why we have the Pioneer Academy, where we are working on this, on making this happen. And this is a collaborative effort, by the way, but I'm doing my best to get the first version of it out. That is how you grasp the future and turn it into a real opportunity. So how do I get here? Why did I talk about all these things? Because we have to understand, it all ties back into why I'm so bullish on Tesla. Because what they have to pull off is not even that hard to pull off. It's not that hard to dominate humanoid robots and AI. You just, we need money, buy chips, buy energy, continue attracting smart people and build these robots, which will become exponentially easier every day because of AI. And that's it. All we need to do is not be dumb. It's surprisingly difficult for most people to not be dumb. But Elon is one of the people who know how to not be dumb. And I think Trump is learning it very rapidly not to be dumb. I think David Sachs knows how to not be dumb. I think Jens Huang learns very rapidly how to not be dumb. So the leaders in not being dumb, they will dominate everything. And you can be one too. So that is our mission here, to learn not to be dumb, to see the obvious, to not be dragged down with our brains by dummies and normies, and also learn the nature of not being dumb. What does it mean to not be dumb? We'll get into this more. That's the purpose of the Pioneer Academy. So here you have it. I hope that was helpful. See you very soon.